Does you or your child want to get a band 6 in the HSC Standard Math exams, but you just don't know how? If so, give me 5 minutes and I'll show you exactly what you have to do at each mark range to get to that band 6 level. And for those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Andrew Malcolm. I failed math in year 11 and then topped the state in year 12. And so for the last 5 years, I've founded a company called ACM Tuition that helps students do the same. So before we start here, what you've got to understand is that at each mark range, if you fix your study habits, you can get up to like so much better to what you were before, right? If you're at 30%, right, and you fix your study habits, right, you can get up to 50, 60%, right, 70%, 90%. If you're at 70% and you fix your study habits, you can get up to 90%, 100%, right? If you're at 90%, you can fix your study habits and get up to 100%, right? So what I want you to realize is that study methods are so important for each stage. So we need to fix this first before we go into anything else, right? Anyway, once we've fixed this, right, what we need to do if we're at 50% is understand the content. So I can guarantee you that if you are failing maths, right, you do not understand the content, right? I don't know if you're mucking around in class, teacher's just not explaining it or something else, right? But if you're not understanding the content, you cannot pass the unit, right? It sounds common sense, but it may be for a couple of reasons, maybe even gaps from previous years. But first thing we need to do is plug that. I guarantee if you just spend all your time just understanding the content, not even doing any practice papers or specific exam revision, but if you just spend your time understanding the content, you can get up to 60%, right? So that's what you need to focus on if you're specifically failing the exam. And if you want specific help beyond this of organizing your study habits, answering the difficult questions, or learning the content, go in the description and you'll see a link to go to a page and book a call with me, and I'll show you, we'll break down where you're struggling, and then I'll build you out a full roadmap to get you to where you want. All right. The next stage is if you're getting 50 to 70%. And for this, we need to focus on three things. First one is algebra, right? And I guarantee, like, anytime a student comes to me and they're sitting in this range, 50 to 70%, right? I immediately say, hey, we're going to do a test on your algebra. And it always comes back that they need to improve it, right? And that's the first thing we focus on. Now, why is that? Algebra is the foundation of math in year 11 and 12, right? Financial math revolves around solving equations, right? Trigonometry revolves around algebra, right? Simultaneous equations revolve around algebra, right? Surface area and volume problems revolve around algebra, right? Linear relationships revolve around algebra. Like, everything revolves around algebra. And if you can't do it, then you're just at a massive disadvantage, right? And so that's why we need to focus on this here. The next thing is if you're in this range, you're probably maybe you're not, but you're probably running out of time, right? And so if a student comes to me and they say they didn't finish a test, right? I know that they didn't get like above 80 or 85%, right? We should be finishing tests even before the timer is up, right? That's how efficient we should be. And there's a couple things you can do with this, like you can even practice timing. Sometimes it's like, just the working out. So like you need to fix your working because it's taking you too long to write it down. Sometimes it's just students just stare at a question for too long. And so they end up just wasting time with just nothing, right? And so that's the next thing we need to fix is running out of time, right? So these two. The last part of getting out of this stage is translating the content into the exam. And so what a lot of students find is that they understand this, so they can get up to that 60% mark. But after that point, right, we need to actually know how to apply that content to those specific exam style questions, specific HSC questions, right? And so a lot of this is just about translating that knowledge, into, for example, my 3 watts 1 house system, if you see my video on how to solve wordy questions, right? And so all of this is like, can we translate this content into the exam? That's what we need to work on and build up upon to get to that next level, right? after this stage, right, when we're at 70 to 90%, right, this is when you understand the content, right? You know how to solve each of the equations or each of the questions. We're literally just focusing on minimizing those silly mistakes. And so why this is so important is because a lot of students, when they're, in this range, right, like they get everything right, but they just make small, silly mistakes, right? And you can imagine like it just keeps compounding. So, you make a mistake from question 1 and 10 and 11 and 13 and 17 and 21, right? All those silly mistakes just add up. So instead of getting 80%, instead of getting 90% or 95%, right, you're down to 85%, right? And, of course, that's not going to help you like at all. So what we need to do here is we need to minimize the silly mistakes, right? So that, we're not just losing marks on nothing, right? If you're at 85%, if you take away all your silly mistakes, you're at 95%, guaranteed, right? The next thing is working out. So these two kind of go hand in hand. But if we fix our working, right, and a lot of students, I remember, I'll tell you a story. I was teaching a student and they were saying like I can do the working, like I understand this, but when I go to the exam, I flunk it, right? And so we analyzed their working and I said, what are you actually calculating on this line, right? It was like financial maths or something. They were like, 2,000 times 0.2 times 3. I don't know what it was, right? But they're like, I asked them what they're calculating on that line. And they're like I don't know. And I'm like, how are you actually meant to know what you're doing on each step? Know what's the next step, right? If you don't even know what you're calculating on the line, right? So this is just an example, but with working, we need to make sure we understand what we're doing and everything's structured in a way that if we look back at it, we can understand it and we can read it, right? And so those are the two big things that go kind of hand in hand here. Once we fix our working, a lot of these silly mistakes go away as well, right? But right, this is the kind of journey if you want to get, 90 or, 100% if you're sitting in this range here, right? But look, that's the full roadmap of how to get to a band 6. And look, this is just peanuts in terms of getting up to that band 6, right? This is just the framework, right? There's we've got to actually fix all of these, right? And it's different for everyone as well. So if you want my help in doing that, go into the description and see the link, right? It's a link to book a call with me and I'll see exactly where you're falling on here, exactly what you need to work on specifically, and I'll build you out a full roadmap to get to that band 6 and even 100% if you want that. So click the link in the description and book a call there and I'll see you on that call.